Welcome ladies and gentlemen to part 2 of my card review series for the upcoming Hearthstone expansion Journey to Ungoro, which is coming out early April to mid-April, so only 1 to 3 weeks more to go, then we can play with the new cards. And today the card review session is called Elemental Edition, because we will look at a bunch of new Elemental cards. Elemental is a new tribe that is coming with the Journey to Ungoro, so just like Beast is a tribe or Mech is a tribe in Hearthstone, Elemental is a new one. And elementals, many elementals are getting bonus effects if you have played an elemental the previous turn. That's a new mechanic. You will set up a turn for the next turn. Plus, to increase this tribe, the developers were also going back to a lot of the older cards and added the elemental tribe to this card. So for example, the Fire Guard Destroyer is now an elemental, the Earth Elemental is an elemental, the Fire Elemental is an elemental, Alakia is an elemental, and a lot more. So 18 cards in total from the previous expansions are now elemental cards. Most of these units are in the Mage and Shaman class to find, and that's also the primary target for elementals in general. These are the two classes that are elemental more or less. So you can expect to see most of the elementals in the Journey to Ungoro, either in Mage or Shaman, but they're also neutral elementals, so potentially every class could play them, but it makes the most sense in Mage and Shaman. In Journey to Ungoro there will be around 25 elementals in total, and today we will have a look at 8 of them. So to kick things off, we will now start with the first card, which is the Crystalline Oracle. The Crystalline Oracle is the new Priest rare card, a 1-drop, has 1 attack, 1 life, and a death rattle effect. Copy a card from your opponent's deck and add it to your hand. What the Swashbuckler is for the Rogue class is a Crystalline Oracle for Priest. It is a great 1-drop, has a death rattle effect which is synergizing with the new Priest quest, where you need to play a specific amount of death rattle units to get the quest going. Plus, the effect is very strong. You're copying a card from your opponent's deck. Battle Cry, which is for the Swashbuckler, you have the Battle Cry there, is a bit stronger than death rattle normal because you're getting the effect. For sure, you will play the card, you get the Battle Cry effect, you get the card into your hand. The Crystalline Oracle has a death rattle effect, so your opponent can prevent that, for example with silence. He could steal the Crystalline Oracle, then he's getting the death rattle effect. The death rattle is in general a bit weaker, but because you're running the quest, you need death rattle units, and the Crystalline Oracle is a unit that you definitely want to play. It is normally not coming on turn 1, because on turn 1 you want to play the death rattle quest. Otherwise it's not helping you if you play the Oracle first and then the quest. That is not counting. The quest needs to be on the board for the death rattle units to count, so you'll play the quest on turn 1. If you have the coin, you will of course play the Oracle on the same turn, otherwise you will wait for turn 2. And then you have the small Crystalline Oracle with the death rattle effect on board. The copy a card from your opponent's deck effect is stronger than just getting a random card from your opponent's class, because there is a bunch of crap in each class. If you play the Crystalline Oracle, you're getting a card from your opponent's deck, and cards in your opponent's deck should be in general better than the average card for the class. So that's definitely a very strong effect. The Crystalline Oracle is a very good card and will not only be played in decks that are using the new Priest cast, but could also be used in Steel Priest, for example, that is running stuff like a Thought Steal, Dragon Imperative, that is just looking to steal as much cards as possible from your opponent's deck. There, the Crystalline Oracle is definitely great in the deck, but also every other deck, the Priest definitely looking for some early card. Crystalline Oracle is good for that. It's providing so much value, especially if you get the bombs from your opponent's deck. So expect to see the Oracle in most of the Priest decks going forward for the next couple of months. Next up, we are looking at the Flame Geyser, which is a 2-mana common card from the Mage class. It's dealing 2 damage and it's adding a 1/2 elemental to your hand. The 1/2 elemental is a 1 mana cost card and a small elemental, which will help you later to set up the turns to get your big elementals out. Dealing 2 for 2 mana is alright. It's not as strong as a Frostbolt. The Frostbolt is dealing 3 damage for 2 and also freezing a unit, so that's definitely stronger. But you are looking for the elemental on top of that, so 2 for 2 is alright. Plus you're getting elemental, which you can then play later whenever you like to get your big elementals going to have the turn effect later. For sure, not the strongest mage spell ever created, but it's providing enough value that in Arena you're looking for the Flame Geyser and definitely picking this one. There are way worse spells to pick, and also the extra elemental is helpful for the synergy with the other elementals. So in an elemental deck, you're definitely going for the Flame Geyser, probably not going in a normal deck for the Flame Geyser. For that, the Frostbolt is definitely the strong option, but in an elemental deck, go for the flame one and have some fun with the elementals. And while we are talking about setting up a turn to create a bigger turn, we're now looking at the new legendary Shaman card, which is Kalimos Primal Lord. 8 mana, 7/7, Battlecry effect. If you played an elemental last turn, so the turn before, you will cast an elemental invocation. So what are the elemental invocations? Let's see about them. We have first the invocation of water, which is a 0-cost spell and restoring 2 health to your hero. Not bad at all. Then we have the invocation of fire. You're dealing 6 damage to the enemy hero. That's also costing 0. All the invocation spells are costing 0. Then third one is the invocation of earth. That is filling your board with 1/1 elementals. And last but not least, you have the invocation of air. That is dealing 3 damage to all enemy minions. So if you play the Kalimos Primal Lord with an elemental played previous turn, you'll cast one of the elemental invocation and you're not getting one random, but you can pick one, the one you like the most. So it is super versatile. You can pick out of 4 spells which are all very good. You can heal, you can deal damage in the face of your opponent, you can fill your board with small elementals if needed, or you can deal 3 damage to all enemy minions and having a nice little AoE, while also having the Kalimos Primal Lord on the board, which is a huge body. So that is one card that I really like to see, not a random effect, but indeed you can pick what you like, what you need the most in a situation. The body is great, it's costing 8, you will play elemental anyway, hopefully, if you play an elemental deck the turn earlier. That's really good. And the spells are super great, they're costing 0 and they're providing so much value. So that's a really big bomb for Shaman, another one. So I can definitely see that a Shaman elemental deck is, because of the Kalimos alone, working really decent. He should provide so much value. You can clear the board, you can deal damage in the face, you can heal back, you can get a board full of elemental and then go for the face next turn, for example with a Bloodlust, so that's a really good finisher. The card is super strong and the Shaman elemental deck, we can expect great from that one. Another new Shaman card is the Stone Sentinel, which is costing 7 and is an epic, has stats of 4/4 plus a Battlecry. If you have played an elemental last turn, so the previous turn, you will then summon 2/3 elementals with Taunt, so more elementals on the board. And that's, by the way, working really good on a curve if you play the Stone Sentinel on 7 and then the Kalimos on turn 8. That's a really strong situation and really tough for your opponent to deal with. So how good is the Stone Sentinel here? I would say it is between very good, a very good card for the elemental class and a playable card. It depends a bit on what you're facing. It's definitely interesting that the Hearthstone developers deciding to go for a 7 mana 4/4 instead of a 4 mana 7/7. So you will see some coincidence there. Maybe they try to do that. But you're getting a lot of stats for only 7 mana. So 4/4 from the Stone Sentinel alone, then you're getting 2 times 2/3 elementals with Taunt, so they can save the Stone Sentinel from just dying right away to another attack. And if you add everything up, you're getting 8 attack and you are getting 10 life for 7 mana, so that is really a nice value proposition here. The card is definitely strong. In an elemental deck you will see the card being played, and also think about stuff like an evolve, for example on the Stone Sentinel. That would give you an 8 mana creature and 2 3 mana creatures, so that's also decent value. Not the best to play the evolve, so doppelgangsters might be more value, for example, but it might be useful to use an evolve in the deck as well, in the elemental deck. If you're spawning a lot of stuff, the Kalimos is also able to spawn elemental units, so it might be useful to drop one evolve here and there in the elemental deck, a little tech card, so definitely looking forward to that. Stone Sentinel, definitely a must-have if you play elemental. The next card we will have a look at is called Ozruk. It's a neutral legendary elemental, costing 9 mana, so quite a lot. Base stats are 5/5, Taunt and the Battlecry effect is getting +5 health for each elemental you played last turn. So in a similar range, for 9 mana, you might remember another Taunt card, which was pretty big, which is called Sora's Slicer. This one has also Taunt, 5/9 instead, and can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. So if you have played one elemental, the Ozruk is getting a bit stronger, then he has 10 life instead of 9, but he's not able to getting not targeted by spells or hero powers, so Sora's Slicer would then still be a bit better. So you would need to play at least 2 elementals the turn earlier to have a 5/15 Ozruk on the board, which is a pretty huge creature. But keep in mind that a Hex or other decent destruction cards can easily take down the Ozruk, and then you have played a 9 mana creature that's just dying in the next turn. It's definitely a really big one if you can play 2 or 3 elementals the turn before, so I would say you can play this one in an elemental deck, but it is hard to set up. If you only play 1 elemental the turn earlier, you're getting a 5/10 for 9 mana, which is just the same amount of stats you would get for the Ancient of War, and this one is only costing 7 mana, so the Druid Epic card. This is then stronger than the Ozruk. I'm not sure how strong the Ozruk is really be, because it all depends on the setup. If you can, on a high amount of the times, can set him up with 2 elementals the turn earlier, then a 5/15 creature with Taunt on the board is really strong. But if you're only able to drop 1 elemental the turn earlier on average, then a 5/10 is not that strong. So it might depend on how many more elemental cards, small elemental cards we can see. So if it is possible to fill your board kinda easily with small elementals turn earlier, then the Ozruk might be getting pretty big. So far we haven't seen that many elemental spawn cards, small cards that can spawn more than 1 elemental. So right now the Ozruk is not that strong, but he might be getting stronger with more elementals getting revealed. So far I would say he is playable to alright, but he could be potentially getting a super strong, getting to a bomb. We will have to wait and see. Right now he's okay in an elemental deck, but not the strongest card to pick. So guys, if you find the Ozruk a bit underwhelming and too bad to consider as a 9 mana creature, then you will definitely love the tol'vir Stoneshaper. That's a new neutral 4 mana rare card, and this one is really good. It has stats of 3/5 and a battle cry if you have played an elemental last turn. This one is getting Taunt and Divine Shield. So get that, guys, get that. For 4 mana you're getting a 3/5 with Taunt, with Divine Shield if you have played an elemental the turn before. The only problem I have with the card is that the Stoneshaper itself is not an elemental. That would have been even more value, because then you can get this one on turn 4 and on turn 5 potentially another elemental card that needs an elemental from the turn before, so then the Stoneshaper would give that the effect it needed. But anyway, a 4 mana 3/5 with Taunt and Divine Shield is super great, and that's definitely a great card to combat aggro with. If there are still many Pirate Warriors, which I don't think so, but let's say there is, if there are still a lot of Pirate Warriors on the ladder, a tol'vir Stoneshaper for 4 3/5 Taunt is just burning them down. So the tol'vir Stoneshaper is a really nice little wall that you can play in the middle of the game, has decent amount of value plus decent stats, and it's definitely helping against aggressive decks, but also against mid-range decks. That he's super useful because of the amount of stats you are getting, plus the Divine Shield and Taunt. The only problem is, of course, he has 3 attacks, so against the Priest he might easily die to a Shadow at Pain. That would be a shame, because otherwise the card is really good, and definitely you can play that in any elemental deck. It's a neutral one, so just go for that. You'll definitely want to play that on turn 4. In the worst case, if you are not able to play an elemental on turn 3, you are still getting a 3/5 for 4 mana, which is alright, definitely not the strongest one then to play, but it would be alright to just drop that on turn 4 at the 3/5, but normally you are trying to hold onto the card then to play an elemental turn before and play that with Taunt and Divine Shield. And by the way, if you want to compare the power level of the tol'vir Stoneshaper, then definitely just look at Sludge Belcher, which is a 5 mana creature with 3/5 Death Rattle. He's summoning a 1/2 with Taunt. So the Stoneshaper, if he's getting Taunt and Divine Shield, he's only costing 4, and he's also having more or less double Taunt because of the Divine Shield, so your opponent needs to attack 2 times or needs to use 2 spells. So that's how you can see how good the Stoneshaper is. But you need to get the elemental the turn earlier, so that's the only downside. Otherwise, this one is just a pure bomb and will be played in any elemental deck for sure. Our second to last card is another really bomby card, which is the Glacial Shard, a 1 mana 2/1 unit, a neutral one, common, elemental, and battlecry. Freeze an enemy. You are not only freezing minions, but you can also freeze the hero if you need to. So that's coming early. You can just prevent your opponent's turn 1 play. So if he's stopping a small unit and wants to hit the face on turn 2, you can just use the Glacial Shard. Freeze that, he's not able to hit. If he's playing Pirate Warrior, for example, you can just freeze the small little charge units, which is also very nice. Plus, he's a 1 mana cost unit, and if you see the Hunter quest, for example, This one is forcing you to play a lot of 1 mana cost units. So in Hunter, the Glacial Shard is definitely seen play with the quest, but I can see the card be played in most other decks as well. Super great, and the freezing effect is helping you against aggressive decks early on. It's helping you in the late game if you want to prevent bigger unit from attacking, or if you want to set up lethal so your opponent is not able to hit the units to kill them. The Glacial Shard is really good, will see a lot of play, and especially in Arena, he should be picked up on a high amount of times, I would say. We'll see about that, but that's a good card and a great 1-drop. Some early counter cards and defensive tools are really what the game needs. So Glacial Shard, I like that. Plus you can freeze even the hero, so if your opponent is running weapons and the weapons are just wanting to hit the face, then just play the shard, freeze the hero and you will go for the face. Or you can set up something to prevent him going for the face, play another taunt or so. He's a cheap card, can be played for 1, you can play lots of stuff alongside the card, so that's another card. Definitely happy to see, a good one, and not even in an elemental deck, will be good in every deck. Our last card for today's card review will be the Firefly, another 1-drop. A 1 mana, 1/2 unit elemental, of course, elemental tribe, battle cry, add a 1/2 elemental to your hand. So battle cry, as I said earlier, is better than death rattle. Death rattle would be a bit weaker, but Firefly has a battle cry, so we will just get another small elemental into the hand that is also costing 1, by the way. So another card that is working great with the Hunter quest, because then you need a lot of 1-drops, and the Firefly is just giving you 1 for 2. So that's really good. Plus, of course, the card is cheap. It's enabling the elemental activation, and it's just like with stuff like the Ozruk, where you need to play lots of small elementals a turn earlier. The Firefly is just 2 elementals to play for 2 mana, so with that the Ozruk, for example, would be going up to 15 life, which is already good if you play 2 Fireflies in the same turn, and you can play up to 4 elementals a turn, and then the Ozruk getting up to 25 life, and that's really huge then. Plus Firefly can be, for example, played in a discard lock where you need to discard cards. With the Firefly you're getting 1 card in your hand directly. You would drop a 1/2, which is not that dangerous, so there it's working. Plus you can buff the card, of course. You have some stuff to drop on the board. For Zoolock it would be possible to play that, but the most plays the card will get are the elemental decks, and of course the Hunter decks where you need to play the quest. And with that, we have discussed all the cards I have prepared for today, all the elemental cards that were released so far. You haven't seen the Mage Legendary, but that was because I have discussed that a few days earlier, so you might want to check that out. Anyway guys, I hope the video was helpful for you. If you have enjoyed it, and if you have, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more. More card reviews are coming over the next couple of days. On Friday there will be the last reveal stream, and then all the cards are announced. So far we only have around 50 announced, so there are still more than 80 to go. Lots of stuff coming for the Journey to Ungoro, and the expansion is coming in only 2 weeks, so I'm really looking forward for that. So hope you join me then with the next card review, and thank you for watching for today. See you then in the next one, and have a good night. Bye bye.